When we hear about the applications of neuro-linguistic programming, how much it can change the world, how much it can better people's lives, we may think that it was all a beautiful thing that was developed, where everybody was working together to change the world. And actually not quite. First of all, the beef between Bandler and Grinder is pretty known, the business battle that has been going on for years, before they could finally settle with "we are co-creators." And even before that, there was apparently a big beef between Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, who were not really going along on their views of how personal change or healing must be done. When I saw Bandler in a seminar back in 2017, he had a pretty funny way of painting that out. He said that him and Milton didn't get along at all, first of all, to be really upfront about it. And he said the biggest difference was that Richard could walk and Erickson couldn't, because Milton Erickson was in a wheelchair for most of his life. And what Bandler was saying was, for example, Milton, wheelchair, highway, think about it. But to go to the point, there were some differences I noticed from the stories I heard and from all the books I read and all the seminars also I saw when Bandler was younger and talking about his relationship with Erickson. For example, Erickson refused for quite a lot of time to create clear, concise models for what he was doing because he said creating concrete and structured models would also limit the creativity of the people learning from him. So he preferred to just give examples and to encourage people to trust their intuition instead of trying to make them fit into one model for psychology that he had created. And when Bandler and Grinder came out with the Milton model, which was the first modeling project they conducted out of Milton Erickson, trying to replicate his language skills and his language patterns to make people go into a trance, Milton apparently said that this was an oversimplification. Another difference was that Erickson used to think it took hours and hours and hours of trance inducing before the person was ready to change. So any person who wanted to work with Erickson privately normally was supposed to go through hours of deepening and deepening and deepening so that they would get at such a slow and reduced state of consciousness that he could apparently play with their minds more easily. Bandler started from the presupposition that this was not true, that people could change even on the awake state, and that is something I noticed too throughout my journey, that a lot of the NLP processes for personal change or healing are actually just processes that Erickson had invented or developed, maybe not created but developed, and that they took those processes and made them more conversational or made them into just clear step-by-step visualization processes, for example. Also because Bandler really wanted to find the fastest way of change. He really didn't like the idea that change must take years and years and years before something good happens, even if Erickson was not taking that long, but still Bandler wanted to go way faster. He wanted like the 15 minutes to phobia cure induction, stuff like that. And more generally, Bandler was looking for the weirdest cases. He wanted to find the weirdest things that psychiatrists could not work with to prove that he could make them change. Whereas Erickson was sometimes taking very difficult patients too, but his overall goal was to make people get a family, get a simple life, live normally. Bandler was like more going over the edge. He wanted to test everything, even outrageous, abnormal things, just to see what works. And we can say whatever we want about it. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't really think anything in life is truly good or truly bad. I think it's always about nuances. And in the end, what comes out is what is the result. Did it come out with good things or not? Pretty often when people had good intentions in history, but their creation or their tragic life ended up in a bad way, or like they created bad things, or like they caused some damage, we just label them as bad people. Whereas on the opposite, some people who may have done bad things and ended up creating some positive change in the world, we say, oh yeah, he was right. It's always a matter of how you view the situation afterward. So I don't think any of them was truly right or truly wrong. I don't think Erickson was right or wrong or the reverse, whatever. I think they were just both of them very big personalities with a big ego to some extent. You have to have a big ego to create such a massive change in the therapy world or in the world of psychology, especially at the moment they did it. I think even when Erickson did it, it was even more closed-minded and really like you shouldn't do anything unconventional, only what is written in the textbooks, nothing else. And Erickson was coming out with no, we're going to do things my way, not your way. And Bandler was apparently even more of that. But as any big innovator, and that is a big thing outlined in the book Mastery by Robert Greene, that when somebody is following a mentor and at some point he wants to innovate, he wants to appropriate to himself all the techniques, he wants to create his own model, there's going to be a breakup with the mentor or some moment where the both of them don't go along together or not as much as before, just because the student must create his own version of what is true and what is applicable and just fit the model to what works for him specifically. So in the end, instead of saying this one was right, this one was wrong, or the reverse, even with anything in life, not just with NLP or hypnosis, but anything in life, I would say just take what is useful for you into every approach and make your own big approach, and then you will make your own outline of the techniques that work for you in your specific cases, instead of trying to make the one model that will fit everybody, which is a great attempt, but it's very long. It takes way longer to create one model that fits everybody instead of just finding something that works for you. You can just elaborate the techniques that work the best for you instead of trying to figure out all the time who's right, who's wrong. That's what the field of psychology has been doing for decades at this point, and it's not really leading anywhere other than inflating the ego of the person writing the books in the end. So just find out what works for you and keep doing it.